Hi, so in this one we're going to go through all the Microsoft 365 news from the last week. So we've got some bits on CoPilot in Stream, some Teams updates, some more news on the new OneDrive and some bits about Viva. So let's get straight in. I'm going to start with Viva Connections Desktop. So when it was launched it was a strange product, and now it seems even more so in my humble opinion, which is where you have a little sidebar tab in Teams that originally you can see your whole intranet in, and then latterly you can see the Viva Connections cards, which it seems a bit confusing marketing that Microsoft think Viva Connections is the cards and the Viva Connections feed, whereas actually there's already an intranet site and a feed of news. So this announcement is making the Viva Connections in the desktop app, so in Teams, seeing your intranet, but now seeing the cards is the default. They're now making that cards view look more like your intranet, which is bizarre. So you can get a sort of top bit which they're calling announcements, hero section, dashboard layout, resources, Viva Suite links, and full page feed. It's starting to look a bit more like a SharePoint site that you might have already set up, and you can link to your SharePoint site in the top. So the landing is jumping to the company's existing SharePoint site. So when Viva Connections was just linking your SharePoint site into Teams, that was quite cool, but I thought it was bizarre that they call it Viva Connections rather than just the intranet in Teams. And I don't know if it's because they wanted more employee experience things to put into the Viva Suite when it was at launch, because they only had 3 other ones. But I always felt a bit of an odd product, and even more so now. I said this to a Microsoft employee over dinner at a conference once. If you'd started World and the intranet had not existed and all you had was like individual little card things which had tiny snippets of information, some not actually information but just links that jump you out into something else, and that was the intranet, and then someone came along and said, oh, we've invented the actual intranet, which has got pictures, newsfeed, video, links to everything you want, resources, you'd be like, oh my god, that's so much better than these card things we've been using. So to already have SharePoint pages and news where you can create a vibrant set of information that looks and feels like how people consume information in their personal lives, to then jump to having these like little card things that are most of them not used and don't change very often, so therefore there's no people coming back to them, and recreate the feed, the Viva Connections feed, which is a bit like the news feed in SharePoint. It just seems a bit disjointed, and obviously now Microsoft are bringing some things back into Viva Connections that are already in your SharePoint site anyway. And if you don't like any of the card things, which is what I advise people a lot of the time, is you can change the default, so you can still pin your intranet into Teams via Viva Connections and not have the card things, but it's the default, so you need to turn it off and just go straight to your intranet. Long-winded way, but hopefully Microsoft are up to speed on, well, maybe the intranet is better because it's showing you better stuff than the card things, so maybe they'll just go back to having that eventually, who knows. Again, another thing, they're just sort of reinvented the wheel with people search card in Viva Connections. So you can do people search from SharePoint. So rather than just having the search in there, you've now got a card where you can search for people, which is bizarre because Viva Connections only lives in Teams, and in Teams you can search in the search bar and search for people anyway. So I'm not really sure why that's needed. Almost last bit of Viva. Viva Pulse is getting Teams chat notifications. So Viva Pulse is basically just a pre-arranged number of forms that you can send stuff out. The idea is to be more like people engagement, like a pulse survey. So you can send mini surveys out and get how your employees are feeling. So it's not that it's a bad thing to do. It's just strange that they would call it a different product when really it's just using Microsoft Forms to send things out. And this update is that you can get notifications through Teams chat, which I'm surprised it didn't do before when you get a Viva Pulse survey, but you need the Viva Pulse Teams app installed, which your IT admin can install for you if you wanted to get that notification through Teams. And then last bit on Viva is Viva Goals, which is a cool product, which is Ally.io that's been Microsoftified into Viva Goals, and better integration with Microsoft Planner. So hopefully that might be of interest if you have got any of those Viva apps installed in your environment. Let me know, do you use Microsoft Viva? Which bits do you use? Which bits do you find useful? Which bits do you find confusing? Let me know in the comments below. A couple of small bits of Teams updates, which is the, I think, quite good ones. Addition of a chat button in missed call activity. So if someone phones you through Teams and you get a missed call, you can just click on chat and just get straight back through to them and do a text chat. So that's pretty handy, albeit small, but sometimes the small things are the best, aren't they? And then Microsoft Teams, emojis, GIFs and stickers unified in one picker. Not sure that this is this is that great, but rather than having different buttons to put GIFs, stickers and stuff in, now it's just all under one little click. So yeah, just a little preview of what that's gonna look like now. I'm Gavin Jones from Me Time, where we help people save time at work to do more of the things they love. Being honest, I put these videos out on YouTube so that you can get up to skill with different bits of the Microsoft ecosystem. But the next problem you're going to have is, one, trying to get your entire organization to work the same way, better together, and knowing the nuances of which app to use when and how they all fit together better at being able to use what you already pay for. And so I hope then that once you're up to speed, you might engage us in some consulting to try and help your whole organization work better together and be more efficient. If that's you, then book a call using the link in the description below and we'll see if we can help. And if not, we've got some free training if you want to get yourself more up to speed than YouTube, and some paid training for individuals where you get live access to me once a week on live calls where we can dive into anything that you might need help with, and hope to see you in there if not on the call. Cool, so on to some bigger things. CoPilot, which I'm really excited about, get my hands on, which has been delayed. I say been delayed. Microsoft announced that it was going to be out on the 1st of November, but then they said for enterprises. So then it was like, well, what does that mean? Is that going to be anyone with an E license, which, you know, as being a one-person organization, I could just upgrade my license to E and then pay extra for CoPilot and get it on 1st November. Well, it turns out that isn't the case. You need to have 300 licenses minimum and sign up for 12 months minimum. So it's quite a big investment, which, you know, I think there's some technical reasons behind, which Microsoft has not been that forthcoming about. But yeah, normal small businesses can't get access to CoPilot just yet in general release and won't be able to do it on the 1st November. And there's some murmurings that actually it's going to be into next year before that's generally released, but still looks pretty cool. So this news is that CoPilot is coming to Stream. I was surprised it was announced separately because I'm just assuming CoPilot is going to be in every Microsoft product. It's strange that then Stream has been separated out from all the other things that have been announced already. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. So if you've watched my video on Microsoft Teams Intelligent Recap, which you can see here, if you haven't, that's got some AI summarization features in it, which then don't appear in Microsoft Stream, which is really annoying. It only appears in Teams. And even if, like I say in the video, if you go through the Microsoft 365 feed and say click recap, it jumps you out into Stream, and Stream doesn't actually show you any of that AI summary. It's not really that clear yet how CoPilot and Teams Premium Intelligent Recap are going to work together, or if Microsoft are going to keep them separate products, as far as I know at the time of recording. But either way, the features are going to be cool if they can sort out the confusion in licensing. So if you've got CoPilot in Stream, you can summarize any video to identify relevant points you need to watch. You can ask questions to get insights from long or detailed video, which is cool. So like if you recorded something like, oh, what did Jeff say? Like, oh, I think it's about 40 minutes. What did Jeff say about that meeting we need to go to? Or what did Jeff say about that new product development? And it'll jump you to that bit in the video. So that's going to speed up so much time and make it more likely, important, however you want to think about it, that you record your meetings and everything that's going on, so it's more searchable. And with that comes quite a cultural change. Hint, if you need help changing the culture in your organization, then that's what we do at Me Time with our consulting arm. So you can locate where people, teams or topics are discussed. You can jump to that point of the video and identify calls to action where you can get involved to help. So sort of try to bring out some action points for you. Where it overlaps with Intelligent Recap is you can say summarize the video, whereas like Teams Intelligent Recap is already trying to summarize the video for you. And I think hopefully CoPilot is going to do a better job of that and one of the things that Intelligent Recap doesn't do is if it breaks for some reason and it's not able to generate you a summary, even though you've got the recording and the transcript and everything's still there, there's no way to sort of click it to say, well, yeah, you broke. It's like there's an error generating this summary. It's like, well, can you just redo it? There's no way of doing that right now, which I have fed back to Microsoft, and if you think it's a pain, then maybe you feed back to Microsoft as well. But obviously this is hopefully going to fix it if that replaces Intelligent Recap. So you can just say summarize whole video. Questions that it's saying you might ask in this blog post is, what are the latest project updates and issues? Is this project running on time and on budget? Have any new risks been identified? How they're being managed? Are there any challenges facing material distribution to the dispersed job sites? How does the site design accommodate hybrid work? So if you're recording all the project meetings, that, you know, the drumbeat meetings of effectively running a project, and the manager wants to know something, you don't then have to have a separate process to go and update the manager, because you can just search through the things that have already been there. So all the questions he wants to ask, you can just ask AI rather than creating extra work in the organization just to update someone that's not as informed as they could be. So massive time saver to have this in all of your video recordings within an organization, and it's obviously all secure and compliance and nothing's going out into the internet, unlike the ChatGPT Samsung disaster. Cool. So some things on Teams that might be more exciting is you can now create up to 1,000 channels per team. 1,000 standard channels. Obviously private channels are still the poor cousin, but hopefully that's coming later. And if you follow MeTime's guidance about how to set your teams up, being bigger and wider and more open, encouraging more collaboration across your organization, then this is a good win, because you're going to end up with more channels than people would usually set up when they set a team up if left to their own devices, because they usually set smaller teams up with more silos and then end up losing stuff, or using chat and end up losing stuff through chat, and still carry on using email and lose things in email. And so that's why we say, if you can get away with smaller number of larger teams, that's beneficial to how your organization works together, and be able to create more channels now, given that there's no good or any archiving ability of channels. Being able to have more is always better. And then video clip enhancements is, you can already record and send video clip messages one-on-one in group chats. You can now blur your background and record your screen, which is useful if you need to get back to someone, just rather than having a call. It's like, look, just look at this bit on the screen and record your screen and send it back to them, which is useful. What would be more useful, in my opinion, humble opinion, is being able to do that in a channel, because channels are the lifeblood of Microsoft Teams. It's how Microsoft Teams started, in borrowing things from Slack before they started borrowing things from Zoom and trying to put everything into Teams. And so channels for me are the one thing that helps you save the most amount of time from moving to Teams, rather than using chats still like Skype for Business, which I think what most people tend to use Teams like. If you can move all your work into Team channel, that's going to be more beneficial and save more time if you can get over the cultural barriers to it. And it's a shame that then Microsoft don't put features into Teams channels. I'm sure it's more technically complex, but being able to record your screen in a channel is obviously going to be more beneficial, because you're doing like video clips and it's going to anybody that wants to see it, that's got the same question as the person that's asked a question in the chat that you're sending one-to-one. Albeit you can have group chats, but they're a pain because it pings everybody every time anything goes in there, rather than just things that they want to know about, which you can get around with channels. Back to the new OneDrive, and if you've not seen my video on the new OneDrive, then check out this video here. I did mention briefly that sync is getting better, and here is a whole blog post about how it's getting even better. So it's now preventing accidental deletions if you've got a shortcut into Teams, which is still confusing, and I hope Microsoft simplify what's sync and what's adding a shortcut into your OneDrive, which we'll go through briefly in the other video. But deleting that shortcut, which I didn't even know, actually deleted the host, the end file and folder, which is definitely not what you want if it's a shortcut. So now if you delete the shortcut, it just deletes the shortcut and not the end thing, which is clearly what you'd want it to do. So I'm surprised it didn't do that at the start. So good update. And again, like I said in the other video, if the OneDrive view, that's how Microsoft believe that that's how people should interact with their files, I think they should make that the default of how files are seen across their ecosystem. And then File Explorer is starting to look now a bit more like OneDrive, but I'm not sure they don't just put the web view into File Explorer if that's the right way to do. So really it's just showing you recommended, some bigger previews, and then your favorites first, and then recent. And then also launching a details pane in File Explorer, which I guess is a Windows update, which looks a bit like what Mac introduced a few years ago from memory. Don't know when they actually introduced it, but it is quite, I use a Mac all the time. That is quite handy to have your information pane just there. So that's a good update to File Explorer. And then they say they've updated the sync settings in the OneDrive app, which I wish they'd just call sync, because it gets really confusing with multiple things being called OneDrive. Just bringing some features to the front of the page rather than being tucked away in advanced settings, it says. I didn't find it that particularly difficult to set up, because once you set it up, you just set it once and just leave it. So I can't even really remember what was there, because you don't touch it that often. But at least they're trying to make it a bit more useful. Cool. And the new teams, which we spoke about in this video, if you've not watched it, is now available in general release. It's really difficult to know when things come out from Microsoft, so it's rolling out, I believe, at the time of recording. It should be in general availability, but then whether you actually got it or not is sometimes up to who knows what happens. So I've had it for a while in my Windows. On my Mac, if I'm in general release mode, the new teams button hasn't popped up yet. So I've, in the admin settings, it's set to let Microsoft decide when you get it. I could force it through if I wanted to, but yeah, still no, as far as I know, no page where you can see which features aren't at feature parity yet. So when I first tried it, there's quite a lot of things that didn't work in the new team, so you just switch back. Tried it a bit later, it's better, but there's still things that don't work. And Microsoft all just said it's almost all features are at feature parity with the new teams. It's like, well, which ones don't work? So I know that PowerPoint, Cameo app, again, can't always keep up with it, but at the last time I checked, didn't work in the new teams. So yeah, at some point then new teams just be just teams, and until then you get a little toggle button. So you should see that coming out now. Let me know if you've already got it and what you think in the comments below. And all the things that we talked about in the video on new teams is just reiterating in this blog post. So it's supposed to be a simpler user interface. It's more flexible for cross-tenant. So if you're a consultant, usually you've got more than one logon. That's really handy. And all the new features obviously will now start coming out in new teams and not in Teams Classic, as they're calling the old purple one. One thing that was interesting is that when the new teams first came out, they'd flipped Teams channel posts to be at the top and going, newest to oldest, and the new box was at the top. Now they've done that as a separate feature, flipped it back around. So in Teams Classic, it's flipped, and then it is going to flip back. And in the new teams, it had flipped, and then it's going to flip back. And I prefer the one at the bottom, but they've just added a button so you can change it. So whether you like it at the top or the bottom, you can have your preference there. And then lastly, big news for anyone that's followed this channel from when we started a few years ago, and having problems with channel meeting invites, which were just bizarre, and Microsoft never really said how they think it should work, because there were people that, if you put a channel meeting in, it went to everybody in the team, which you didn't want. Sometimes you put it in and it goes to people that you invite and all the guests of the team, which is bizarre, so you don't want that. And sometimes there's a way to sort it out with the SharePoint settings, and sometimes there wasn't. And so hopefully this is Microsoft recognizing that it shouldn't work like that, because now they've added a feature. If you do a channel meeting, you can invite everyone in the team. So presumably they're sort of saying, well, that shouldn't happen if you don't do the new feature and add everyone in there. And the last one, Microsoft are introducing Town Hall, which was live events rebadged and apparently, re-architectured in the background. But yeah, unless you're a massive organization, you probably not have used live events before. We use it a couple of times in my corporate job, and yeah, it's now Town Hall with some features. I mean, not only Microsoft does this, but Apple does it as well. Is just like announcing a new thing with like not saying, oh yeah, this is a direct comparison with the thing that's going. So although they said, yeah, Town Hall's coming and live events is going, they then like list out all the benefits of live events. I was like, well, that was already there. So like, just tell me the differences between live events and Town Hall. So it's quite tricky to actually pick through with what's going on there. But yeah, basically, if you're a small and medium-sized business and you're not running, massive external or internal events, then you don't need to worry about this anyway. And if you do, then it's now called Town Hall and not live events. So hopefully that was use. Let me know what you think about these news videos in the comments below. And if you like it, give this a thumbs up, click the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified every time we release a new video. Got ones coming out at least every Tuesday. And yeah, if you like this video, consider supporting the channel. If you need more help, then click some of the links in the description below. And thanks for watching so far. I'll see you in the next one.